Good evening, everyone. System Shock here with the 6th episode of Book of Hours, our first playthrough through it as a YouTube series. And I just want to mention here that I am playing a copy of the game given to me from Weather Factory for promotional purposes, but I think you need only look at a couple of the 10-hour videos to see my enthusiasm for this game. But please keep in mind I was given a copy of this to help promote it, and it is a thing of value. Now, I did want to just give a quick caution about today's episode. I'm already recording these things a little bit earlier, and part of that is just the enthusiasm about playing this game, but I also want to get my ducks in a row for making sure that these videos are ready at the start. And at this time, I'm actually hunting down a bug. I submitted a bug report, and we weren't able to reproduce it. And so I'm actually going to try and do that in this video here, because one of the best ways I can find it is through practice. So I don't like holding up these videos specifically for bug reporting purposes, but I just want to caution you, I may actually quit out of the game and reopen it, just because this happens to be a very difficult one to find, and I would like to make it as clear as possible if I do run into it. So it won't take very long, but I just wanted to say, for this particular video, I'm recording it ahead of time to accomplish a specific thing. So let's figure out what we're going to do for the day. I think we were at the end of summer. Oh, you know what? I think I mislabeled the previous video too. I think I called it the last day of spring. Anyways, but we're going to be moving into autumn, I suspect, with the Orchard Keepers. And then I know our main goal has been to try and get some heart influence. So I think, yeah, we combine the core, we combine, let's say, a solace or a storm. Actually, a storm would be, memory storm would be what I need. Here we go. Current affairs. What's happening in the world beyond Brandkrug? What visitors will the season bring? We'll try either a new incident, find a suitable visitor for the current incident, or retire the current incident if there are no visitors left for it. So we're still working on the affair of the forgivable debt, and just as I said storm, we do in fact have a storm arrives. So I would love to be able to use this to make Mrs. Kill go further into the house, but because we have been struggling so much to try and get some of the texts, I do actually want to take the time and see how we can translate this storm, not just into a text, but what's the best text that we can turn that into. So Wrapped in the King would be a wonderful candidate, except for the fact that, you know, we have the storm, which is 4, we have the core, which would bring it up to 6, and unfortunately we just don't have a memory that will turn that into, well, I guess the memory wouldn't matter because we already have the storm, but we don't have the skill that would turn that into an 8. But there should be something else that we can do here. So we've got 7 Faces of Icarus, which is 4 Sky. We've got the Fallen Cross, which is 6. Actually, I think we have 2 6 texts. Yeah. So, and then we have Demutu Corporum Veditorum, but that one is quite difficult. So this is a hard one because I could get ambitious and I could try to read. I could try and read one of the Sky texts. Well, no, because this one won't take a tool, right? So, yeah, realistically, I think we're just going to read Wrapped in the King off of this. But I feel like there is more that I can do. So let's take a minute here and think. So I can get Mrs. Kill. I can bring in Mrs. Kill using an Arab. I am less likely to use Mrs. Kill, though. So the tricky part here about using Mrs. Kill, so I can use the Arab to catalog a book. I would bring Mrs. Kill in using the Arab. And then I can keep, I can keep talking to her. There's no big deal. But what exactly would I be accomplishing doing that? Because I know there's only a few... Oh, okay. Actually, the heart would help. Okay, I think I have some reasoning that will allow me to take advantage of Mrs. Kill, or well, Sorry, I have something that I can use Mrs. Kill for that makes sense. So now in terms of the sweet bones, if we hire someone, we can get the orchard keepers. So orchard keepers offer nectar and a little heart. So that's kind of equivalent to hiring Mrs. Kill. At that point, you might wonder, it's like, well, if you're going to use Mrs. Kill, why are you, why not, why not use something else? Actually, yeah, with that in mind, I think hiring the help might be more helpful than bringing in Mrs. Kill. Okay. Again, you think it through and you wind up with alternative plans. So here's what we're going to do. We'll consider the uncatalogued book first, because that may give me something that is, sufficiently interesting. So, catalog a nocturnal period book. This book was probably written around the time of Hush House's nocturnal period, after the turn of the century. If I examine it, I can learn more about what knowledge it might contain. And again, here I'm actually okay just waiting a while, because in the case of Wrapped in the not Wrapped in the King, in the case of Seven Faces of Icarus, I don't know. I think we're at a point where we can hope for a little bit better. Okay, recordings from the Amphibian Abyss. So that doesn't really help us. This is in Deep Mandiac, and it's 4-scale, but it's a phonograph. So unless we find something that can play phonographs, we're in trouble. Okay, so now I need to make a decision in terms of what what do I want to use this storm for? I'm gonna need to combine the storm with an element of the soul. An ideal would be. Actually, I don't think we can add, yeah. Now, I think the best we can hope for here would be we take Seven Faces of Icarus, we take the storm. Now, it doesn't really matter if we add a core or a health at this point, so perhaps we just use the health here, because the core is a bit more versatile. And without the skill, in this case, we just say I can master the mystery, enough sky to match mystery sky. So, again, a little bit of a disappointment as far as... Okay. Sorry, I'm still thinking about how I want to use my hirelings for the rest of the day. And I think I will get Mrs. Kill use... No, I'm going to wait to see what the text gives me. So, Sky Harmony, I can master this mystery, enough sky to match mystery sky. Sorry to jump all over the place in terms of what actions I wanted to take. Is there someone en route to Hush House? This is Dr. Yvette Southey. Alright, just a reminder in terms of the current events. The affair of the forgivable debt. Like many criminal enterprises, reckoners offer loans to the desperate and unwary, but reckoners can offer loans not only of cash, but of allotted years of life. They usually keep a low profile, but now 2 reckoner mobs have gone to war in the unremarkable Lithuanian city of Kaunas. Why? What's in Kaunas? Dr. Yvette Southey, playwright, philologist, psychoanalyst, is happy with questions as with answers. So if we would like to talk with Dr. Southey about current events, I wouldn't be here if I hadn't heard about the Reckoner War, but it's not the Reckoner War that interests me, it's the trade in years. So try to match Mystery Moon. Again, this is just like what we ran into last time. We don't have Mystery Moon to work with. I am curious though. So unfortunately this won't work. Yeah, that won't work either, so I think we need to find a moon bed. So we may wind up losing another another visitor. I'm going to wait. I'm going to see what the text gives us before we move forward. In the early 1530s, the last abbot of St. Brendan's, called Roaring Richard, set down his conversations with the illiterate local cunning man Red William. Actually, you know what? I've lost my nerve. I am going to hire Mrs. Kill. Mrs. Kill's mood always improves when I drop by. If you don't choose a topic, Mrs. Kill will offer help as a friend. Mrs. Kill stands ready to help. You always cheer me up, she says morosely. Okay, perfect. This was the bug that I was looking for. So I am going to take a minute here on this episode. I'm going to save. I'm going to quit. I'm going to make a quick note, and then I'm going to send this off. And I apologize for the time, but I've been trying to get this forever. Actually, sorry, I'm going to go one more step. Okay. I'm not going to do the full bug report of that. I just want to make sure that... and sorry, one last step. Okay, cool. So I apologize. I know this is really not great for a YouTube video, but I happened to catch something that has bugged me on a couple of playthroughs, and I now have a live specimen. Okay, so we were getting Mrs. Kill as part of the actions. Mrs. Kill stands ready to help. You always cheer me up, she says morosely. Red William describes the 7 forms in which he goes about and under the world: viper, cat, fox, eagle, dove, boar, and crow. Abbot Richard ingeniously fits all of these into a framework of solar belief. This definitely sounds like Dancer, and here we go. Midwife's assistant, as somber as autumn, as kind as autumn. She also likes her beer. Okay. I just got hit by the same thing again. I'm gonna leave the one. I'll let the one stand. It should be sufficient. What I might start doing is saying my keystrokes aloud, just because I'm wondering if I'm doing something special that I'm not full consciously registering. So All right, Mrs. Kill has seen more of the world than she usually lets on. Conversations with her yield the occasional surprise. Okay, so space to pause. There it is, and can be no tizzer. Mrs. Kill, as every local gossip knows, came from France to marry Mr. Kill, but there's scant trace of the continent in her accent now. So the regret memory doesn't really do that much for me. We'll talk with Mrs. Kill again. That time we hit S to lock it in, and space to talk. That didn't do anything. Or it acted as it was supposed to. So I shouldn't say it didn't do anything. It did exactly what it was supposed to. All right, and we're about to finish our first text that isn't our diary. According to Abbot Richard, each of Red William's forms is closer to the sun and is increasingly winged with virtue. Richard draws an analogy with the waxen wings of Icarus. Hypocrisy and false virtue will melt before the sun's heat, and so sincerity and untrammeled expression of the self are the utmost piety. It's worth noting that only a year or two after Richard wrote this book, John Tregonwell, who was so appalled by the debaucheries of the monks of St. Brendan's that he recommended the monastery's immediate dissolution. Let me try reading that again, because I feel like I stumbled over it. According to Abbot Richard, each of Red William's forms is closer to the sun and increasingly winged with virtue. Richard draws an analogy with the waxen wings of Icarus. Hypocrisy and false virtue will melt before the sun's heat, and so sincerity and untrammeled expression of the self are the utmost piety. It's worth noting that only a year or two after Richard wrote this book, John Tregonwell was so appalled by the debaucheries of the monks of St. Brendan's that he recommended the monastery's immediate dissolution. Okay, so let's take that text off to the side. So this gave us a memory fear, and we've got furs and feathers, which will at least get us a little sky. It's not immediately what we need, but I do notice that furs and feathers may help us with 108, which will require health. So it's not the best outcome I could have gotten, but it helps. Consider a new skill: beasts, birds, husbandry, harvest. Okay, so I hit, put it in, hit S, and then space. There it is, and can be no tizzer. Alright, so we've got extra grail off of this now. I just want to double check that we don't have any other grail options here. So 5 health, 4 health, or heart rather. 4 hearts. Yeah. Grail doesn't really help me right now. Mrs. Kill has seen more of the world than she usually lets on. Conversations with her yield the occasional surprise. At this point, we're really waiting for a heart memory. All right, now this gives me 1 scale and 2 sky. One thing that would be helpful is if I have furs and feathers when I have a health and a fear, because that will allow us to read 108. As it is, we'll basically wait for the next storm to turn this into a sky text. But I think what we'll do is we'll wait out the day. We'll hope for a heart. Oh, I can hire Denzel. And ideally, Denzel will get me a room that I need. I don't mean to sound ungrateful, but would I really want to spend a shilling so that I could unlock the first... better than nothing. So we'll give this a little time. Let's give this one more try with Mrs. Kill. But in this case, maybe once we start hearing a countdown, maybe we'll hire Denzel just so we can make a little progress in the house. So the thing we're really looking for here would be a memory, a storm, or a solace, so that we can get 2 heart, and at that point we would just need 1 more heart to bring her up to the 5. And again, there are some things that I can do. There are some items that I can feed her, but we're a little early to... There it is. Okay, I'm glad we waited. Collaborate core. Everything goes easier with a song. Boosts heart and grail. Ooh, just in time, too. So before anything else, we will take the time to use the memory solace with Mrs. Kill. I think probably my best bet is to go further up in the Motley Tower. That'll get me access to some books, although it may not help with Dr. Southey. Okay, that's another case where I dropped her in, hit S, and then hit space, and that didn't register again. And again, I'm sorry I'm not engaging with the affair of the forgivable debt here, but we need Moon. Or at the very least, we need more beds to be able to house these visitors while we look for Moon. Alright, memories don't last long outside books, but it's made a difference for the day. So, we're starting to sort of break some of the jam that we've had here. So, under the right actually not even under the right circumstances, I can definitely read 108 when I want. And then now, opening the Motley Tower, we're going to get access to a couple of rooms which, if memory serves, have quite a few books. So, Motley Tower, the first floor. The door jams half open, but the room above is a bright oasis after the dreary neglect of the lower tower. The previous occupant had probably left some sort of protections in place. I'll find somebody suitably qualified to deal with them. So one interesting question I can ask of myself is, if I didn't use that Arab for Mrs. Kill, what might I have done otherwise? So, for instance, I could have hired the orchard keeper. That I would have given up a shilling instead of the Arab to make them work. And then I guess the question is, like, what would the element of soul gotten me? I suppose I could have hired Denzel for part of the Grand Descent. Yeah, I could have made some more use of the day, but I still think, I don't know, I don't like giving up, at least until I'm in a position where I feel secure in my ability to generate money. And we can, but we just wind up stopping all the other interesting things that we can do in the game. But I think in this case, I want to be a little careful in terms of what how I spend my day, basically. I want to make sure that I'm taking the if I'm spending the money, I'm using it so that I can unlock a room or get a book, for instance. So this will be a good day in terms of getting things. I think this is a tough one, because if I do it in sequence, I can do... Now we gotta wait for the weather. It's a gale. Oh, man. That makes life really tricky for me. So the reason why the gale creates a dilemma... So... Oh, wait, but we can't use the astrolabe in a desk yet, so we need to unlock this room. Oh, yes, hang on. I should have done this ages ago. Oh my goodness. Man, I've been creating so many problems for myself for no reason. I completely forgot to assign this book to the Tree of Wisdoms. Oh boy. Okay, this is a very, very silly... I know this is a week into the playthrough and I didn't do a very basic thing. So, the roots of memory. There are always choices, and so there are always regrets. Trist. I was wondering why this legacy didn't seem to have Trist. So there we go. Trist, the change and the longing. This will get us Moon and Moth. We could have actually used that Moth to move us up in the Barber's Tower. And, yeah. Well, it is what it is, right? I made my choices, and I know I'm already just thinking about what the comments in the previous videos are going to be. If there aren't comments in the previous videos telling me, oh, put your journal in, thank you. If there are comments like that, know that you made me feel bad for no reason. But what we'll do is we will now assign Furs and Feathers. So Furs and Feathers can be committed to the Bosk or Nyctodromy. So Nyctodromy will get us Fet, that gets us Rose. Alternatively, if we use it with Bosk, that will get us another health. Now, another health is nice, but what we're trying to do is get the elements of the soul. So we will commit Furs and Feathers to Nyctodromy. Thought I would explain. Travel through the darkness and the hidden places. The wings in the wood. When the first hunters were lost in the wood in the days before its darkening, they found a chrysalis of black and white. To it they sacrificed the birds of the air so that it would show them the way home. So the moth came to be, and so the moth was the first to navigate the ways of the wood. This is the foundation of Nyctodromy. So 2 new elements of the soul to play with. So Trist gives us Moon and Moth, whereas Fet gives us Rose and Moth. So what I'm trying to work out right now is what is the best way for me to use my elements of the soul to unlock books. We're kind of doing a Hail Mary with Dr. Southey. I think I want to leave the core aside. So I'm not going to worry about the health because we know that we've got 108 in the bag. Getting new books right now is the higher priority for me. So I sort of want to hang on to Fet. So unfortunately this Gale I don't get to do that much with. We can also take a look at the Motley Tower of the second floor. A nasty theoplasmic miasma hangs around the room above. It's no longer strong, but it'll take years to dissipate to the point of safety. With the right help, I can raise counter-influences. So that requires 6 health or 6 moth. If I were to... Okay, so if we were to use, let's say, Mrs. Kill. So Mrs. Kill has one heart. 2 core makes 3... And then we combine that with the Gale, we get the 6th. What would the case be for using it in a book? Wrapped in the King would require 5 heart, which I don't currently have, so there is no case. Ava's Treasury, I would need to find 3 sky, which I don't think I currently have access to. So the argument is we use either Mrs. Kill or an Orchard Keeper to unlock this room. Okay. I think I'm going to hire the Orchard Keeper. But we want to think about what we can accomplish with the talk verb. Realistically, I only have 2 texts that I can get for Dr. Southey. And I guess the big thing here is I don't actually need to read the texts for them to be useful to her. So it's really just kind of a roll of the dice. I've got exactly 1 desk. So yeah, I guess the question is like, is there a bed that I can get access to? And easy answer to that is no. So I don't have a bed to extend the stay of the visitor. So in this case, I need to find a moon text. It could be, a random selection from one of these. So the last question is, what is the logic behind trying to get Mrs. Kill in? What I'm trying to do here is sort out, okay, given what I know, is there an element of the soul that I can use? So if I set aside my Arab to bring in Mrs. Kill, for instance, I know we can already combine the core and the Gale to get higher up in the Motley Tower, but is there something else that I can do to really make this sing? So here's what I'll do. I will bring in... I'll bring in an orchard keeper, so assistance from an orchard keeper. In autumn, the orchard keeper comes to sell their wares at Brandkrug. A shilling will buy one's help. Orchard keeper offers nectar and a little heart. We will catalog a book. So we'll catalog the Curia book at Ava's desk. This book was probably written around the time of Hush House's Curia period, roughly the 1700s to 1800s. If I examine it, I can learn more about what knowledge it might contain. And then we will use... I just need to decide between Trist and Fet. Let's say that Trist may be giving me something that I need in a way that Fet... I don't think I have the same argument for Rose right now. So we'll use Fet with the Nocturnal book. Alright, catalog a Nocturnal period book. This book was probably written around the time of Hush House's Nocturnal period, after the turn of the century. If I examine it, I can learn more about what knowledge it might contain. Okay, so, I know we're at the end of our time here, but I just want to see where this all goes. So we'll at least get the... Oh, I think we'll take it to the books being unveiled. Speak to an assistant. I could encourage my assistant, work with them for a little while, exalt them. Or I could just listen to whatever they might have to say. Add something to enhance your assistant's effectiveness for the day, or just talk. Actually, in this case, I'm going to talk to them. So I feel like this was a little bit of a disappointment of an episode. I'm doing this first thing in the morning, so it may not be on top of things. I am glad that I am glad that I noticed that error I made in terms of committing the journal, though. That's a big help in terms of elements of the soul. Okay, exorcism for girls. Simple but forceful techniques for rousting unbefitting spirits, written in a straightforward and colorful language. So this one, we have like an outside chance of doing it. So we've got Edge from Arab. So with the right weather, we get that up to 4. So yeah, I would need a skill before I can do that. And this is the Invisible Opera, so unfortunately, Dr. Southey will also be disappointed in her quest for a text. There's something a little corny that I can do to try and make them stay. But so I suppose, given that I sort of know where this story goes now. Okay, no, I think I know how I'm going to spend the rest of the day. We'll save it for another episode, but I think the plan here is the reason why I wanted to be cataloging a bunch of books was I wanted to see if I could get a moon text to help Dr. Southey. Now, I didn't get that, so the urgency has gone away. So what I could do is I can use the Trist, combine that with my health, and I can use the Trist to read Seven Faces of Icarus to get the fear. I combine that with the health and Furs and Feathers to be able to read 108. And then I guess that leaves me the core and the Arab, although of course core is going to be going into the assistant. So one of the things I'm trying to do here with the assistant is just keep talking to them to see if they wind up giving me sort of a free memory, and we'll see if I remember that for the next episode. But you've all been very patient with me. Again, I apologize for taking some time off with the bug, but this turns out to be a little bit of a tricky one for me to find. It isn't always consistent in terms of how it works. So I wanted to try and do a video. First of all, get the bug on video in case that wound up helping. I wanted to get a log, and we managed to accomplish that today. So as I said, we did we did figure out a little something with the Bee Silk Journal. Anyways, thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.